music.
Hit it, TJ.
Yeah, here we go. Let's bring out the first cast member. Yeah!
First up, we have Allison Court as Absissa.
Next up, we have Catherine Ginger as Val Cooper.
Now we have Kini Augustini as Sunspot.
Let's bring out more JP Carliak.
We have Isaac Robinson Smith who plays Bishop.
Holy cow, it's Holly Chow. Come on up to see.
Next up we have the weather goddess herself, Allison Silly Smith as Storm.
All right, pour some sugar on me. It's time for Lenore Xana's Road.
And hey, Bugs, next up we have Cal Dodd as Wolverine.
This is incredible. This is like we are blown away as fans and moderators, and we are so grateful that you guys are all here. Thank you so much. How has it been since the show came out? Like, how has your lives changed? I want to hear. Just jump in.
It's been all right.
Hey, they got my name on the paper here. My name's right here.
Yeah.
Wow, that trailer was something else, wasn't it?
That was the first time I'd seen that version. I was like, wow, we're here. This is it.
I know.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's great to be back. The last time we did a panel this big was, I think, in LA back in 2019. And at that point, we didn't even really know the show was going to come back. So what a treat for all of us to meet all of you and to hear your stories about what X-Men meant to you as kids, and now to meet many of your children who are the new generation of X-Men. Thanks so much.
And half the population of your children, if they're male, are named Logan. You're welcome.
Well, let's jump into some questions. So, your characters have super distinct voices. When we read the comics, we hear your voice with these characters. What was the approach to finding that voice? Let's start with you, Cal.
And you're going to hear a lot from the people here in the panel, the Canadians anyway. Because I had no idea who the X-Men were. I had never read an X-Men cartoon. It was like, I read a cartoon, an X-Men comic book. So I went in blind for the audition, and I had done, I was a singer in Toronto for doing jingles and commercials, and I did a lot of impersonations like a Joe Cocker, Tom Waits, gravelly singing guys. So they figured I might be able to do something with Wolverine's voice. So I got a call from Karen Gora, would you be interested in auditioning for Project X? It was a secret, Project X. For a cartoon. I said, oh wow, everybody wants to do a cartoon. So I said, sure. And I showed up and in Toronto, and they had flown in from LA and New York, the writers, the producers, directors, and I didn't know who Wolverine was, and they showed me a picture of him, and I said, that's cute. I said, so what is this? He said, well, he's 5'3", tough as nails, would die for anyone if need be, for his friends and the people that he loves. And the posting was, and he's cranky. Great. So I said, who do you hear him sound like? And they all said, Clint Eastwood. That was the first name they mentioned. And that's great, but Clint's like kind of contained and inside, like, go ahead, punk, that sort of thing. But I know that they wanted to growl. And they said Steve McQueen, which later on I liked as a reference for Wolverine because he's a short guy and very quiet and to himself, which is very much like Wolverine. And then Wolverine all of a sudden explodes, but he's very lonely and just very quiet. So I like that. And the other names I didn't get. Ward Bond and like, Ward Bond. And so I said, okay, and they give me some lines, and I just came up with another voice, like Wolfman Jack, for some reason popped into my head. Remember Wolfman Jack from the 60s, 80s, 70s? Like, Wolfman Jack, baby! I put a bunch of that in Wolverine, as you could hear. And they gave me some lines. I remember this one line, and I said, because Clint Eastwood, I've never heard him yell in a movie. He's always just like contained. So I said, this line has to be, I'm just thinking yelled at. And I said, who am I yelling at or talking? They said, well, yeah, you'd be yelling at him. It's keep in mind, but I don't know anything about the X-Men. It's Sabretooth. And I went, Sabretooth? Sabretooth, and I'm Wolverine? Is this an animal cartoon? Seriously. Is this when they stopped laughing like you, they just said, no, and this is supposed to clear it up for me, which I love. No, don't be silly. It's they're mutants. And I went, what the hell, some mutants? And no, so they explained all that stuff, and then they said, so you're ready to read? I said, sure. Awesome. And this is the first line that I read, my first audition line, and apparently the last, because it was exactly like this. All right, you egg-sucking piece of gutter trash. You always like pushing around people shorter than you. Well, I'm shorter. Try pushing me. Ow!
Nora, I want to hear about the voice of Rogue. Tell us about that voice.
Tell us, sugar.
Oh my goodness, well, I also did not know anything about the X-Men at the time, and I hadn't done I'd done one animated project, but my agent called me and said, Lenore, they're looking for a female with a deep, husky, sexy voice who can do a Southern accent. And I had played a lot of Southerners on stage and in film and TV. And to be honest, I did not go the first time around to the first round of auditions because I was busy doing theater and films and television, and I just thought, I don't know if I've got the time. But then about a month and a half later, my agent called again and said, Lenore, they're still looking for the actress to play this part, and they haven't found her yet because it's you. Get your ass in here and get down there. So I went down to the studio and I saw this gorgeous drawing that Larry Houston oftentimes uses of Rogue standing there with one hand on her hip and her head flipped back, and she's just got this sassy attitude. And I thought, yeah, I can do that. And I went into the booth, put the headphones on. The rest of the people that were doing the audition were in LA. Put the headphones on, and I just read the line. My daddy liked to kill himself when he found out I was a mutant. Get out of my mind. I remember I had me a boyfriend when I was 13. Had me a boyfriend till I kissed him. Poor boy went into a coma for 3 days. And then I heard these screams in my headphone of Larry and the others saying, that's her, that's Rogue, don't let her leave the building. And that's how it all came to be. Yeah, thank you so much.
Allison Seeley Smith. Please tell us all about you found Storm's voice.
Well, my agent called and said, I want you to go and audition for this animated series. For me, that meant cartoon. And cartoons, I didn't understand why a serious actor like me would want to go do a cartoon, so I go down there. And you know, they're explaining what this whole thing is about, and all the adjectives are raining in, and I'm taking it all in, and it's still not painting. I still don't know what it is I'm supposed to do. Mutants, I don't know. And then somebody said Queen.
Because she just passed the mic to you, I want to talk about the voice of Julie. Obviously, we have Allison Court, who originally voiced Julie, and then we have... So, Holly, how intimidated were you to take over Julie?
If we're talking about, finding the voice, Allison, first of all, I grew up on X-Men, the animated series, like most of the people in this. It is a huge influence on the person that I became, not just like the actor and like the stable of voices and stuff that I do. So, Jubilee's voice was probably already in my DNA, as was Rose, as was Storm's. And so when the audition first came through, they were looking for a voice match, and because it was very obvious, even though it was a secret, name and everything like that, what this very recognizable, what the audition lines were. I channeled all of my Saturday mornings and rewatchings because I had taped it off of the VHS, off of the tapes. I think that because of the influence of the show on me, I already sounded enough like Allison's voice as Jubilee naturally. So it came pretty easily.
Wonderful. Allison, let's jump down to you. Now, I want to know, obviously, finding the original Jubilee, but you got to kind of re-invoke her in X-Men 97 as a different version of Sissa. So I would love to hear about finding the voice of Jubilee.
We had just wrapped on Beetlejuice, the cartoon. I don't know if they're... And it was the same team, essentially, that was moving on to do the X-Men animated series. I knew nothing about the X-Men. I went in, Dan Hennessy, our director, was like, it's Lydia, just, do your thing. So I did my thing. Sydney Iwanker from Fox was like, it is not Lydia. I don't care who you hire as long as it isn't Allison, because I cannot take any more of that voice. So I didn't get the part originally. They hired somebody else. It didn't work out. Thank you. I'm so sorry wherever you are. I hope you have a wonderful life. So they brought me in, but it was hard. Like, Sydney was so adamant that I don't sound like Lydia, and he kept saying it's not a cartoon. Stop sounding like a cartoon. And I'm like, I thought we were making a cartoon. But with all of us, it was really about coming from a very real, very dramatic place. And I think part of what you hear in the Jubilee voice is an 18-year-old struggling with what that means, because my whole life and career up until that point was, cartoons and kid stuff. And then you probably hear me kind of being ticked off at Sydney, constantly yelling at me saying, you sound like a cartoon. So I think that's how I found my Jubilee voice.
I'm going to jump over to JP just because I want to know about Morph and the significance of the character to you.
Sorry, the last part?
Significance of the character.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I was finding the voice, I didn't have as much sound-alike requirements as a lot of the other people, because, Morph was in like 8 or 9 episodes in the original series, so it wasn't as burned into everybody's mind. And also, naturally, I don't sound that different from Ron Rubin, who did a wonderful job in the original series. For me, reading Morph on the page as now an established non-binary character who is exploring their gender identity, and I think that's part of the reason that they have the gray face that they do now, is that they're trying to think about, like, well, who am I? Who is my base level person? Like, when I'm not shape-shifting into all sorts of other people, who am I? And finding a character that is exploring their gender in the 90s just resonated so hard with me that I was like, well, this is Morph's voice. There is. I'm not playing anybody. I'm just being me. Yeah. Woo.
And Isaac, I want to know how you discovered Bishop's voice for yourself, because you have that such rich, deep quality that knocks everybody's socks off.
Yeah, yes, and I've gotten this, when I'm talking like me, I don't sound like Bishop at all.
Yes. Literally, when we did a podcast, I was so amazed and shocked because it was like you completely transformed. You're so talented.
Yeah, it's funny, AJ Lacasio and I both talked about how we both have these like sort of just baseline, sort of monotone kind of voices when we naturally talk, like just this hum in the middle. So we kind of have a lot of fun with finding different ranges of stuff. And I, kind of like JP was saying, didn't really have a lot of sound-alike stuff necessarily to think about. I mean, I had a baseline of Philip Aiken, who originally did Bishop in the original show, so a great performance that I got to research, which is, I mean, it's the coolest homework in the world to just watch X-Men for, it's the greatest. So I went on YouTube and like looked at all this stuff and got kind of a baseline of who he was. But then, interestingly, Cal, I didn't know about the Clint Eastwood part of yours, because that's the direction that I started to get when I first started it, was a black Clint Eastwood was the direction I got. And I was like, oh yeah, like he's kind of got this fun, like in the original show, like this harmonica kind of intro whenever he comes on screen, and like, I just imagine like the black bars over the eye squints and sort of, so I sort of thought about that, and I went into kind of that mindset, and so that's how the voice of Bishop came out like this, you know? And I see a pretty good Bishop right here in the world, I guess.
Yeah, Gia, I want to ask you sort of the same question there. Like, you're kind of the new kid on the block, so to speak, as a character. You're a lot of people's introduction into the world of mutants.
Latinos.
Yeah.
How many Latinos in the house? Any Brazilians? Yeah, I mean, just like JP, you know, I didn't have any sound likes, you know. I think also I like to say ignorance is a blessing sometimes. I had no idea it was X-Men 97 at any point. Of course, all of us had, you know, code names, but everybody figured it out some, you know, one way or another. I never did. And so they asked me to do a Brazilian accent and a neutral, regular accent if I could, and being in the States for a while, I guess I sound more American than Brazilian now. But my Brazilian accent is quite thick. And so when I got the role, I went to, you know, the recording booth the first day, and I started, you know, doing my Brazilian accent, but it was very thick and not very pleasant to the American ear, I think. Too much sounds at the end. And so we started, you know, I literally found, as, you know, in the process of a mixture of, you know, the way I speak with my, you know, regular accent now, and some, you know, parts of Brazilian accent, and it was just like a mixture, you know, and also I feel like, you know, I got the description, raver, a kid, single, I'm like, yay, that's me. And so I think I naturally sound, you know, young. So it wasn't too much of like creating something very distinctive. It's just like I just wanted to, you know, be that young, you know, kid, you know, partying and having fun, and obviously just, you know, the sides are always, you know, king and queen, and you do your best to put on, you know, the emotions needed for that scene. But it's been such a joy, so surreal to be here. It's really crazy. It's my first Comic-Con ever, so I'm like.
And Catherine, I'm very curious about your role. So you're our original Jean Grey, the amazing. Well, you got to develop a new character for us, Val Cooper. So I'm really curious to hear about Val and how you kind of found her, you know, government lady voice, and what you feel like you brought to that character.
Well, you know, I've lost my voice, having talked now for 2 days, so I don't sound like anybody anymore. I keep looking at this card. It says, "Please be aware that many members of your audience may be under 18 years of age." I feel like they put that there for me.
Keep it clean.
I mean, honestly, I was trying to find a different voice than Jean. I mean, Jean in the original, I don't even remember auditioning for Jean in the original. I remember reading Storm. They sent me sides for Storm. I remember thinking, that doesn't seem right. have auditioned. Nobody was just gonna give me Jean Grey, so I must have auditioned at some point. I was shooting nights doing a TV series at the time, so I don't have a lot of clear memories of that time. But so Val, I wanted to just sound different, and she has a certain innate authority. And honestly, I really enjoyed voicing Val. She is a far more complicated character than I thought she was going to be. She has a far more complicated journey, and it's just such an honor to continue to be a part of such a truly exceptional animated franchise that has affected and touched generations now of people. And frankly, I think she had probably had one of the best, most iconic lines of the first season of '97. Magneto was right.
Well, we have a sizzle reel that's going to show off all sorts of amazing moments from X-Men '97. If we can pull up our clip.
Yeah, let's hear these voices, y'all.
I found a lot of things. Pain, grief, admiration for those who fought despite the odds.
I'm gonna hit pause here for a second. I got a few questions. Explain everything!
Exorcism, punks!
Like I said, we go way back.
Well, this isn't gonna get confusing or anything. Let's call this mystery gal in the bed Jean Doe. All in favor?
You smell like burnt hair. Be an X-Men, Jubilee? I don't even want to be myself.
Please, winds, hear me. Please. Sugar. I can't feel you.
I know a part of you wants to hang here, but that's not living. Living doesn't get cheat codes or extra lives, but it has friends and family.
Jean may take a Boy Scout routine summers, but I don't much go in for being bossed around.
Luckily, this ain't our first time at the X-Men Are Dead rodeo.
Yeah.
What's your job? Hot and rich?
Don't forget single.
You're next then? Well, let's look at the schedule and see who's up next. Looks like Magneto and Rogue have the Danger Room next. And tomorrow too. Wow, Rogue's really training her stamina.
So let them thunder, for I am lightning. Was right.
Absolutely incredible! Such icons. Well, there is something that was a little heavy that I want to talk about. And I remember talking to the cast and crew leading up to a monumental moment within this series. And a lot of them were saying, I'm scared. I'm scared for people to see this because what if everybody hates us after this? What if the fandom revolts? But you know what? It was a masterpiece. Yes. So I want you, with all of your heart and energy and passion, show how much you loved episode 5. Remember it. Congratulations on your Emmy nomination. Well, I would like one of you to volunteer to talk about your thoughts on episode 5 and your experience creating it, and what was your perception of the fan reaction and how has it changed after everybody saw the episode? So who wants to go first? Yeah, let's go, Lenore. Let's go, Lenore.
First of all, thank you so much to all of you for showing us the love and the sugar. We appreciate it. Yeah, episode 5, I was a little bit nervous. First of all, I was nervous when Magneto and Rogue are starting to become an item. When I knew how many Romy fans there were out there, and I happen to be one too. I'm probably the #1 Romy fan. And so I was a little nervous about how people were going to react, if they were going to be mad. Some of them were, you know, but I also knew that it was a story and it was going to play out, and I knew how it was going to change and end. And so when I got episode 5 and was reading about what happened with Gambit, I mean, I got very emotional. And I've said this before, but I was already grieving my young niece, Maya, who had just died not that long ago from cancer after putting up a major, wonderful, incredible fight. She was so brave, so brave. And so I just channeled all of that emotion into my work, into my performance. And I felt that if I could express it just with my voice, hopefully it would touch other people's souls who were listening and watching. And if they had had any kind of traumatic experience or grief of losing somebody that they loved in their lives, that it would trigger them to feel it and release their energy of great grief as well, and to cry. Because I believe that that is, in the end, very healing and very therapeutic. So I was actually amazed when I paid attention to the online reaction to that episode when people said, "You broke me." You broke me. Those last words broke me. And many people have told me and written online that in fact it was healing, that they were able to cry and release pent-up energy that they'd been holding on to over many different things that have happened in their lives. And so, and when men come up to me, and they might be 6'4", and they're like, you almost made me cry there. I'm like, almost? And they're like, well, yeah, you made me cry. That's good. I said, that means you're human. I said, real men cry. Real men let out their emotions. And that was what I was hoping would come from my performance anyway in that episode. And so I just want to say what an honor it was and what a gift it was to get a script that good. And I loved performing it for everybody, so I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Thank you.
I want to know who's a Storm fan in the audience? Allison, I am very curious, since you've done the voice of Storm, and now you're coming to events and meeting fans relatively for the first time, what is it like to interact with Storm fans?
It's amazing. I think that's the biggest difference between the work that we did in the 90s and now. Each time you go into the studio, your job is to be true to the script, and that's really all that you think about. But this, you guys, are the added bonus. I mean, it's wonderful to have the scripts that we have, because the work, the passion and the care that has gone into this series it's exhilarating as an actor to have this. But what means even more is coming out and meeting you. And I don't know if you can see my button, but it says Black Superheroes Matter. And it's wonderful. We hear so many stories from so many people of extremely diverse backgrounds, but I must admit that sometimes when I'm sitting there and lots of people have come up and my heart is full of the stories that you have told and the love that you give. And sometimes somebody who looks a lot like me walks past and they just mouth, oh. I'm honored to be able to do this, and I just want to thank you guys because you're the reason I got a job. And I'm a great fan. You are the most amazing fan base. The most amazing love comes off of everybody, and it's immensely gratifying. So thank you.
Thank you. So, you know, so basically there is a lot of amazing stories about interacting with fans, and I want to hear a little bit about how, you know, Holly, JP, he, Lenore, we've done a lot of things in LA, like parades and watch parties and stuff like that. And, you know, this is especially for the newer cast, the newer generation. How have you been connecting with fans? Tell us your stories.
They don't have any.
Oh, okay, well, look on that.
Nobody looks. They don't have any stories.
Except Wolverine. Wolverine likes me a lot. Now, there's enough people here that I want to write in a campaign. My boyfriend is Bobby Drake. Make it happen.
Anytime, pretty boy.
Somehow you've been sore. No, the fan reaction has been amazing. I mean, you know, we live in divisive times. Understatement. Yeah, I mean, there's been a bit of, I think I was a little bit nervous about portraying a non-binary superhero. I mean, I'm genderqueer myself, and thanks. And I affectionately refer to myself as a piggy, pandemic-inspired gender explorer. I'm one of those people who during the pandemic actually had a moment to breathe and was like, oh, I think that there's something about myself I did not know. And so, you know, so much of this has come lately to me, and I've been fortunate enough to discover some of my gender through the people, like the fellow voice actors that I teach, from the amazing graphic novels that I read, like everything from Heartstopper to Dead Endia to genderqueer, like, yeah, so many amazing things. But also through Morph. I mean, as I mentioned before, like, this is a guy who's exploring his gender in the 90s, which just felt so unique to me. And it's one of those things where you put it out there and you hope that it resonates with people, but if not, then at least you got something yourself. But the fact that there's been so many people that have come up and have had their own queer experience and have felt seen that Morph exists, and not even in a really explicit way. I mean, you know, we haven't had our very special non-binary episode, you know, and we don't need to, but just the fact that he exists, and also, unlike the original series where he was just a ball of trauma, like, he actually gets to just be the comic relief and, you know, have fun, drink some beers, turn into a, you know, hulking ape and fight his best friend. Like, you know, it's all good things. So, yeah, I mean, it's really just meant a lot to meet all of the people that that's meant something to.
JP just said something that I've talked about too with playing Jubilee, that representation matters, meaning like you don't have to have your character be about that, you know, their identity or what they are. Just by existing and living their lives and showing that the exact same characters that you love and that resonate with you do come in different flavors. You know, that's a huge part of the work too. A lot is accomplished just by letting people who have been denied opportunities before have a chance, have a seat at the table. You know, you're talking about having, you know, fan interactions and stuff like that. Of course, the number of people that have come up to me that said like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm so glad that Jubilee is being portrayed by an Asian actor. In this, you know, and as many that say like, it shouldn't matter, you know, and arguably the work that Allison and I do is not that different. We're both actors, we're both just trying to tell the story of the character and in the best way that we know how. But it's less about ability and more about opportunity. And so it means a lot. It means enough to people that they have come from far and wide. And I just did a signing in at a shop in New Jersey. Thanks, Zap Comics. It was only for 2 hours. And I thought, you know, we advertised it on social media for like a couple of weeks beforehand. I thought maybe, you know, maybe 10 people show up. And it was like consistently packed the entire time. And this family came up and said like, oh my God, I'm so glad we made it in time. We just got off the plane from the Philippines. And we came here, and the 2 kids were like exhausted, just like had not slept. But like this family that wanted to be Jubilee because Jubilee means something to them, having just gotten back to America from Asia, this is the first thing that they wanted to do. So yeah, hell yeah, it's very meaningful.
I'll sort of jump off quickly about what everybody has been saying. You guys, something that I've talked about this in a couple of interviews that I've done with my own journey with my own identity and what I feel like, because I'm biracial, I'm half black, half white, and so growing up, one person out there, thank you. I've constantly, just kind of by default, felt like I don't fit enough in any community, like the black community, the white community. I've kind of lived this world of like, especially in auditioning when I'm going out for different things, and like which side of myself do I present more? Do I present myself naturally? What do I do? How do I exist? And just the journey of existence is difficult sometimes, but what's great about my connection with the fans that love it, and also I just realized this with my connection with Bishop, is he's a man out of time. So by definition, he doesn't have a community that he really sits in either, because he's trying to be responsible with all of these different people and all these different families he has, and past that he doesn't know anything about really, and all this stuff. And I was like, this really aligns with who I am and what I'm trying to do. But by being part of this show and this community, it's really wonderful because it reminds me that I am enough, and that's been an incredible discovery.
And I just want to add that, like, you guys are truly, absolutely the best. I have nothing else to compare, but I've heard from many of these incredible, talented castmates who've been doing this for a long time, and to hear that, like, nobody has ever experienced something that, like, you guys makes us feel, and like, just by, you know, in LA, we had these watch parties every week, and I got to meet so many different people, and so many people showed up, and you create this beautiful family feel. It's been truly surreal, and I'm like just so overjoyed when people come up to me, and just like everybody, you know, they feel seen. You guys feel seen, you know, Latino community, being representative of my country, and, you know, so lucky, and it's truly, truly beautiful.
Wonderful. And if I could just throw in, I think part of what makes the authenticity of the show resonate so well, aside from like the wonderful people that are up here, is the amazing writers and creative team.
If you weren't on X-Men 97, can you stand up for a second? If you weren't on X-Men 97, stand up.
I mean, you guys, the truth of the matter is that, you know, In the past few years, there have been some projects who have felt the need that, like, oh, we're going to do the DEI thing. We're just going to like have the bingo card of diversity. We're going to check boxes, and we're not going to do anything behind the scene. It's going to be like white cis het male people just like running the whole show, but we're going to put a lot of cast members that are going to make it feel diverse. But it never feels diverse. And I think what makes this show so powerful, what makes episode 5 so powerful, is the authenticity that has happened behind the scenes and the perspective that it's coming from. It resonates not only with the communities that it is about, but everybody else, because we can all empathize with that human experience. So, congrats, guys.
I'd just like to point out that these things are so strong that there's a sentinel in the doorway who's been agreeing with everything.
This one's for you, Lord.
So I have a Wolverine question for Cal here. I'm very curious about being Wolverine for so long, losing him and then coming back. What does Wolverine mean to you?
He's my friend. I like him. Yeah, he's literally like a brother. And when the first series ended after 5 years, it was just like, bang, it's over. Like, where the hell are you going? What do you mean it's over? What am I supposed to do now with them? Walk around with his voice carrying what? Who is it? And it was just back then, it was like every series usually went 5 years, and it was like, that's it, next. And then we waited 25 years for this wonderful stuff to happen that's happening now. And Wolverine resonates with people because he's such a weird dude. And he's got a huge heart, and obviously a lot of people identify with him because he's short and he doesn't take crap from anybody. And you know, he's got a great heart. And some people, and I told this story before, this story touched my heart immensely. This kid came up, and I forget where we were, Texas somewhere, and kid, he was like 30. And with his daughter, who was 9 or 10, and he was dressed in black, and he had Wolverine claws on, and so did his little girl. And he came up and stood in front of me, and I knew I couldn't stop him. He was autistic, and he said, and he explained that, and he said, and my daughter is autistic as well. And I have to thank you for saving my life and for making my daughter, that she's even here, because I was being abused and insulted and teased all the time. And I decided that was it, I was going to take my own life. And his friend, or it wasn't his mom, but his friend saw him, he was about to jump, and he said, Wolverine wouldn't do this. What are you going to do on Saturday? Wolverine would not do this. And he just said, it just hit him, and he said, you're right. And he said, and I came down, and he said, I just have to thank you for that. And he said, the series, I just love it, and my daughter loves it, and I just have to thank you. And I had my claws on, and I took it off after we finished, and I put my hand out, and he took his claw off, and he shook my hand. And with that, he and his daughter turned like soldiers and marched away, dressed in black with their claws. And then this woman comes running up to my table in tears, and I said, what's the matter? She said, I can't, that's my husband. He has never, ever touched another human being with his hand. And I just can't believe it. Because he loved you so much, he touched she said, I just hugged her, and the two of us cried. And then I said, now get out of here. That they feel, that's how it affects people, this series. It's just amazing.
Yes, thank you for sharing that story. Thank you. So I want to get more of a quick answer on this one. And we're going to go down the line, and I'm going to start all the way over there with Allison Court. All right?
Wait, she and I are like wiping tears away for a second. Give me a minute, okay? Yeah.
Well, Allison, now that we can talk about everything, because we've finally seen the whole season 1, what has been your favorite line or scene in the series for Absissa?
Oh, well, those are two different things. Like,
you can pick one or the other. Short answer.
Oh man, everything I say is a short answer. Okay, so from a personal standpoint, obviously recording that scene, going back in for the pickups, and finally starting to hear Holly's voice, the new Jubilee, in there as I was doing my pickup lines, that was amazing. That was the best experience I had because I was by myself in the studio and just having this little fangirl moment and being like, she sounds like me, but different, but like me, but different. And I'm like, oh, this is good. And just getting to say, just you wait. Because I know the ride that is ahead for Holly, and I am so excited for her. So that was my favorite moment.
Okay, Catherine, tell us all about your favorite Val scene or line.
Or monologue, he said. Well, the monologue, I guess. I think episode 5 changed every character in the show. It was kind of an inflection point for every character, including Val. But I think what Val says is she's suspended up in the ceiling when she talks about, we see things and we turn away and we go about our day. And they just get repeated and repeated and repeated. How often do you find things like that in a cartoon? Number one. And that whole speech sort of encapsulated the theme for me of the show. So there's that. I just wanted a quick thing. I didn't know until we all did the original show in a vacuum, and I had no idea how much it had affected people till we started coming to cons. And I love the number of people that have Phoenix tattoos. And they come up and show me their Phoenix tattoos, and I didn't get it. I didn't get it until I started coming and talking to you guys and seeing the tattoos, and I get the whole Phoenix. I got it on one level, but now I get it on a much bigger, deeper level, the whole attraction to the Phoenix saga. Anyway, I'll shut up.
Thank you, Catherine. All right, Keith.
So I was always a big fan of Wolverine, and at the premiere, I had completely forgotten, and I went back to the scripts to see what was going to happen. And so when the big scene, the first episode, in the danger room, when Wolverine jumps over Roberto with his claws and tells him, scared enough for you, bub. I love that scene so much. And you guys saw the line here with Jubilee, don't forget single, that's my favorite line.
Tell us, JP.
God, I go back and forth on my favorite line a lot. I mean, ostensibly, I don't know if everybody knows, but I actually was the one that said, more smash! But lately, I keep coming back to my line, haven't you figured it out? We're in hell! I don't know why.
So I think two things for me. So one of my favorite, it's not even just a scene, but it's a moment, but everybody here has seen it, I know, but just the cameos in the last episode were just so, I had not seen anything about it, and I was like, what was happening? Everybody's here! And I also had a lot of fun. I also voiced King T'Chaka in that last bit of the show. So that was really cool, because I barely remembered recording it, and I was like, oh, that's what it was for. Okay, I get it now. But there's been a couple of great Bishop lines you already saw, but I think my other favorite is, seen a lot of futures, but Magneto leading the X-Men, that's a new one.
I would just like to say I am seated between a king and a queen, and you just angled her mic to me. Benevolent leader. Okay, so more Smash is also my favorite, but the Bastion fight with Jubilee in the finale. Sorry, spoilers, guys. In the finale episode, I guess I must have read it on paper, but when it came to watching it, just like, glasses damage, and she does so much damage to Bastion. And when has Jubilee ever been allowed to demonstrate her power? The series it's like a culmination of like this whole first season where we're starting to see her develop in real time. This is the kind of stuff we're getting out of it. Also, there was a Jubilee Nightcrawler combo that I guess I had forgotten was in there, but Nightcrawler's the best, so yay.
Oh, it's a testament to just like the magnificent writing on this series, and Storm's had some really good ones. But you know, sometimes there's so many voices in our heads, and there's the voices in our heads that say, you're not enough. You're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not strong enough. And then sometimes there's the voices from outside that say that you're too much, too flamboyant, too angry, too uppity. And so it's kind of good to be able to tell all of those voices, you know. So let them thunder, for I am lightning. That's right.
That's one of my favorite lines. I love that one. And Storm, read him the weather report. Her entrance in that first episode is so epic. I loved it. And there's so many great lines in this show. I love a lot of Magneto's lines. You know, don't make me let you down. That was so powerful. But I also loved, his name was Gambit. Remember it!
Now, what was your favorite line or favorite scene from X-Men 97 for you?
They're kind of like two they're totally different, obviously. But the first one was when Jean is pregnant and everyone is just suffering breathing, and she's all of a sudden says, "Oh, he's here, he's here." And we're like, "Oh, she says, "No, that baby," and Wolverine allowed this line. Oh crap. And the ending, I guess the 10th episode, been through a lot of wars, but the brave always die first.
We are unfortunately at the end of our panel. I wish we could talk to you guys for another hour. I just want to give a shout out to Holly. Holly pointed out our Sentinel over here. This is actually Eric Bauza, who's the Sentinel voice. But unfortunately, that's all we have. So please help me in thanking this cast.